and move things around. We're going to get hit play. Oh, look at that fancy little sound right there. Okay. You guys can hear me still? Yes, thumbs up. Coach Glitter, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm going to move this box over to the side real quick. Okay, ditch deprivation. So if you were here last week, these first few slides are going to be familiar. I'll have a little bit of different content on them. But this workshop, the objective is to give you a new perspective on how to change your body without eating foods that you hate, sticking to boring meal plans, and just feeling like you want to quit through the process. So that is the premise of the workshop. And then today we're going to take a deeper dive into some more hacks, tips, a few Q&As from my Instagram stories, as well as I'm going to share 3 stories with you. I think one of who is here today, some before and afters, and sort of the strategy that we use to get results. So with that, just a real brief on who I am, why I give a shit about this kind of stuff for those of you that are new and maybe we haven't actually met virtually yet. So I'm a personal trainer. I'm certified through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition as a health coach. I also coach a team of competitors who compete in NPC, bikini, and figure and wellness. And I've competed a time or two myself. I've also owned Venus Fitness Studio going on 13 years. We've had thousands of women come through. It's definitely, we call it the cheers of fitness. I think those of you that are members can agree. We definitely want to know your name. So for those of you that are like, what's cheers? It's a show from back in the day, and it was about a bar, and when you walked in, everybody knew your name. I like to pride myself in the fact that I help women who are struggling with their diet and exercise find a way that is effortless. They create habits, and it becomes a long-term process towards fat loss and looking lean and sexy. Also, positive body image, super important. And not only that, I've also had my own issues with weight, body image, body dysmorphia, food things over the years. And I've also had my own struggles with being overweight for my frame. I've been 200 pounds prior to, and I've been as low as 128 pounds stepping on stage. Typically around most days, I'm sitting about this picture here on the very end, maybe a little bit more muscle these days, but definitely with more clothes on than standing on a cinder block wall. But when I'm not competing, I tend to maintain around 150, 155 pounds. Today was 153. All right. And so some goals for today's workshop. We have a little recap of last week's homework. So I did give you guys some homework kind of to practice getting familiar with tracking macros. So I'll go over recapping what that was. And if you're new today, I'll invite you to screenshot that so that way you can start this week and maybe give that a whirl. We're going to talk about how to calculate your own macros. That was something we didn't discuss in the last workshop. If you work with me, disregard that. Do not go recalculate your numbers. That is what I am for. But if you are doing this on your own, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Also going over some steps you can't skip if you want to remain successful with this type of dieting style. Also a lot of mishaps that happen when people track. So we'll definitely go over like some things I've seen over the years working with clients that derails them from having progress. And then how to do the damn thing and get started. So before we get started, in the chat box, I would love to know, what is the last diet that you tried? So if you're currently doing macros with me, or you did macros and you kind of fell off the wagon, before counting macros, what was the last diet that you did? And also, did it last? Like, are you still doing it? Did you find success with it? Pop that in the chat box because I would like to know. Let's see. I want to see what we have here. Weight Watchers and keto, low carb, and also, yes, no, you were hangry, right? Let me know why it didn't work for you, or if it did work for you, why did it work? Intermittent fasting, I definitely want to do a workshop on intermittent fasting. So if you're interested in that, Let me know if I have enough interest, because I did that for 4 years, and I also think that it has some great benefits. Low calories, 1200 calories, vegetarian. What else? Mindful eating. Yes, intermittent fasting, keto, Weight Watchers, all the things, right? Yeah, so a lot of times, I think even for myself, it's like, ooh, the shiny new thing, right? So we have to not be stuck in like perpetual shiny object syndrome and like, ooh, let me try that. Ooh, let me try that. And when they become really restrictive, it's hard to stick to. So I found that with macro counting, at least with my clients and the ones that I work with, um, it's much more sustainable. It's more in line with your normal way of eating, if you start to steer down the clean eating path and also want to have some of your fun favorite foods. So that was fun. Yes, those are all very familiar diets. I've done them all myself. Okay, last week's homework. If you were not here last week, feel free to screenshot this if you're on your cell phone, or take a picture with your cell phone, and try this out next week. So the entire workshop is up on my YouTube, which is Living the Goddess Life over there. I made it public. You can watch that. I had a lot of feedback from people that caught up and watched it after the fact, that gave a really great explanation on how all these things work, more deep dive into the principles and kind of like the sciencey aspect behind macros. But downloading MyFitnessPal, start adding all the drinks and foods you eat how you normally eat. Don't use their preset guidelines and try to stick to that. Just start eating and see what you end up with. Play around with using measuring cups and spoons for logging your portion sizes. Don't forget your BLTSs, bites, licks, tastes, and samples. Those need to be tracked. And then also not forgetting to track on the weekends. That's where a lot of folks struggle and goof up. And then this just helps you become very aware of your eating habits and patterns. And then at the end of this workshop, we'll chat about how some of you who were on last week's video, how you did. Let me know what you learned. I know we have a private Facebook group, and a lot of people are already posting in there their discoveries from the past week of tracking and how they feel that it's really made them mindful, right? Raise your hand if like tracking, you're like, oh yeah, totally, right? It's made me very aware. Yes, for sure. So if you're just getting here, we are just getting started, but make sure if you have any questions at any time, you just type them in that chat box and I will go back through and read them. And if you want to send something to me and like, you're like, oh, this is a stupid question, I really don't want to put it in the public chat box, you can pull down and send it to me privately. I will keep your name anonymous when I read them off later. Okay, quick recap. This is a quick recap of what we did last week. Macronutrients are basically what your calories are made of, and it tells you what to eat. So for quick example, if you had 1,500 calories, macros are what makes up those 1,500 calories. So what is protein, what is carbs, and what is fat? And then macro counting is just having specific numbers within those parameters that need to fit into that 1,500 calories. You like my hand visuals? That works for me. Okay. And then just for sciencey people who are like, how does this break down with numbers? Protein is 4 calories per gram, as is carbs. Fat is 9 calories per gram. And we're going to talk a little bit later, a few slides down the line, about under measuring some fat portions and really going over, and how it can kick you over your calories. And then alcohol is 7 calories per gram. Okay, why should you count macros instead of just calories? I made a few little changes to this slide from last week, but macros are going to determine your body composition. So what do you want your body to look like, right? So rather than having a diet of like 1,500 calories of fries, like if you did that for 6 months, what would your body look like versus 1,500 calories of like a good amount of protein and like moderate carbs and a little bit lower in fat. Your body, the way it looks is going to look different. And I think I kept in my slide from last week, it just showing my body in three very different shapes, but the body weight is about the same. And it's because the food I was eating was different, and the stimulus I was providing to my body, AKA weight training, was a huge component to changing the shape of my body. So what do you want your body to look like? And also macros are going to help you trim body fat if that's your goal, or put on muscle. That's also another option for some people. When you can count macros instead of a meal plan, so this is like meal plan versus macros. Macros are going to allow you to eat foods that are non-traditional diet foods and still get results. So who's seen like my Pimp Your Rice Cake stuff on on Instagram? Like, we've been having fun with different stuff that's like, oh my gosh, you eat that? Like, you're like always on a diet. Yeah, but like I don't eat, like I like other foods besides broccoli and asparagus and chicken breast. Macro counting gives you more flexibility, so it's proven to provide more sustainable results instead of yo-yo dieting. So this is not to say that like macro counters don't fall off the macro counting, right? Like, who's been there? I've had stints of like, I haven't tracked for a day here or a day there, but because I've been tracking for so long, I generally know what a portion looks like. So even if I have a hiccup here or a hiccup there, I know what portion sizes should be looking like if I want to stay relatively close to my targets. Because sometimes you want chocolate, right? And meal plan, when your coach hands you a meal plan, they're like, here you go. I don't see Ghirardelli chocolate squares on there. And I'm be like, yeah, that's not the meal plan for me. So I have to have chocolate every day. Like, it's just, I don't have to, but I enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's like a savory little treat that I look forward to. So I will have chocolate in some capacity every single day. Meal plans are restrictive. Again, don't allow for flexibility. Macros give you much more variety, so you don't get bored with your food. So I don't know if anybody's ever been handed a meal plan, but if you don't want chicken breasts today, maybe you want turkey breast, or maybe you want lean ground beef, or maybe you want bison or whatever. So this is also macros, right? It allows you to swap out your proteins so you just don't feel like you have to eat chicken to get results. It also, I coined this term sanity foods, or AKA meal finishers. So when you are eating and you're like, ooh, I just want a little something like to finish off my meal, which is typically chocolate for me. This allows you to have those things when you count macros. And again, my Pimp My Rice Cake posts, which have kind of been fun to watch everybody else try as well. Okay. So how to figure out your own macros, right? This is important. So when you load your, when you have your phone and you go into MyFitnessPal, it's going to have like, take you through the whole process. Like, what are your goals? What's this? What's that? And it's going to try to spit out numbers for you. And I don't want you to use those numbers because they're generally off. Generally, they're always usually off. They're going to try to have you eating some god-awful low amount of calories. So there's a couple options. So just bear with me here. Again, you can screenshot this once I get through all the little steps here. Online calculators. So there's some online calculators where you go in and it'll ask you some data. You know, you fill in the data like your age, your height, what are your goals, etc., your activity level, and it's going to calculate the numbers for you. It'll spit it out and it'll say, okay, Amanda, you are going to eat 140 grams of protein, 130 grams of carbs, and 55 grams of fat. Those numbers are what you need to hang on to, and we'll get to that in a second. So 2 calculators that I would say, if you're going to do this on your own, that I've trusted in terms of they're pretty decent for what they are, is the Precision Nutrition Macro Calculator. So if you just Google Precision Nutrition Macro Calculator, that will come up, and then you can start to kind of play around with numbers in there. The other one is IIFYM, which is just it's an acronym for If It Fits Your Macros. And they also too have a calculator, and they have some great recipes and different things on there, and tips and great blogs for you to check out as far as macros go. Option B, I'm going to shamelessly plug myself because obviously this is what I do. But if you hire me, I do that for you. Coaches give you higher accuracy. I deep dive into multiple factors: your unique dieting history, your lifestyle, your preferences, the foods you like, the foods you don't like, as well as a lot of other tools. And you have to check in with me every 2 weeks. So you can't just like disappear, because I'll be coming looking for you. So that's the other option. Once you have your numbers, so whether it's numbers that you get from an online calculator or they're numbers that I've personally calculated for you, you need to go into MyFitnessPal. So I'm just going to show you real quick my screen. I'm sure you guys can see it here. And in the right-hand corner, it says more. There's like 3 little dots there. I don't know if the light's like kind of bright there. There we go. So it says more in the right-hand corner there. And then you're going to go to the menu that says goals. And that is where you're going to enter your specific macros. Okay. I'm like totally off here, but in the nutrition goals area, it says calories, carbs, protein, fat goals. That is where you're going to want to go to insert your numbers. All right. Now, if you have the free version is not going to let you get specific. It's going to want to give you percentages. Now, if you're fine with that and you're just like, I just need to start somewhere, I used the free version for probably 4 years and I was fine. This last year, I wanted to get really serious with my competition prep, so I upgraded to the premium version, and I probably will never go back to the free version because now I can see like down to every single number, and it has all kinds of other really cool features. Can't remember how much it was for the year. If anybody knows, please put that in the chat box, but I feel like it was $100. I could be wrong. Okay, so that is figuring out your macros. All right, we're gonna move on. Key steps for success in macro counting. Most people will typically give up or fail because they eyeball portions and they're not getting the accuracy down. Leaves a huge margin for error. So when clients work with me and we are stalling progress, I see they're tracking all the things. I'm like that annoying mom that's like, did you clean your room? Is your room clean? Did you clean is your room clean? I'm like, are you weighing? Are you weighing? Are you weighing your food? Are you weighing your food? Okay, so weigh your shit, because I'm telling you, if you're not doing it, yes, it's annoying. And my very last slide in this entire presentation will have another little coaches who tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. You're going to be spinning your wheels if you're not weighing and measuring. All right, get a digital food scale. So this is going to be the most accurate way to track your macros. Definitely doing this over using measuring cups and spoons. And we have a great slide coming up that's going to show you why. You could get them around 20 bucks, Amazon, Target, Walmart, something like that, but digital is the way to go. I don't have, everyone's like, which one do you use? I have 3 or 4 food scales. As long as they're digital, it's totally fine. Weighing in grams versus ounces, and this just goes in tandem with your macros, right? I'm giving you macros in grams. So if you can weigh in grams, that's going to be much more accurate if you want to get super granular. And then I often get this question a lot, which is, how do I weigh, do I weigh my food raw? Do I weigh it cooked? However you are weighing it is how you need to put it into MyFitnessPal. So what I mean by that is, if you weigh your chicken breast cooked, when you go into MyFitnessPal and you're like, okay, chicken breast, make sure that it says cooked chicken breast or grilled chicken breast, because it makes a difference. When you cook meats, they lose moisture and, fat and things like that. So you're actually going to be overeating protein if you are logging things as raw in your phone, but you're weighing them and eating them as cooked. So make sure that those two match up. Same thing with like oats and, all of your other things. If you are weighing them dry or, in their dry form before you cook them, make sure you're looking for that also in MyFitnessPal. Okay, prime example of why you need to weigh your foods rather than eyeball or using measuring spoons. I don't know about you, but I love me some peanut butter. And if I use a spoon and I'm like, that's a tablespoon, it's like 3 tablespoons because it's just like Mount Everest on the top of my spoon. So this is a good example. Like, this is what most people think a tablespoon of peanut butter looks like. But 1 tablespoon of peanut butter is actually really sad, isn't it? It just makes me sad. It's not very much. And it adds up very, very fast. Like I said, fat is higher in calories than carbs and protein. So you could be easily overeating your fats like this. And this also goes for things like avocado, and like when you use olive oil and pouring it in your pan and things like that. It goes very, very fast in terms of adding up. So just be mindful of your fats. Okay, pro tips for success. What gets measured gets managed, hence why measuring and weighing and tracking, you'll be able to manage your body fat, and your success is hinged on that. Use an app to track. Been talking a lot about MyFitnessPal. That is the one that I always recommend my clients use when working with me because it talks to my software and I can look at their foods and see exactly what they're eating. However, there are other great ones out there, and just play around with whatever works for you, feels user-friendly, and that you can stick to. Already talked about this. BLTs count. Again, another coaching pounding down into your brain. Things like oils that you're cooking your food in. Is your chicken breaded? What condiments are you putting on your things? What ingredients are going into the salad that you're making? Like sunflower seeds and cheese, like all the things need to be accounted for, and also veggies as well. What are you drinking? That counts too. So a lot of empty calories can be cut from drinking lots of high caloric drinks, sodas, juices, things like that. All of those things count. And even if you think it's healthy, like almond milk or coconut water, aloe water that has, calories, anything that has calories is going to count and needs to be tracked. A great thing that MyFitnessPal has is a scanner function. So when you go into your app and you hit the blue button there, and I'm really off, blue button, and you go to add a food, meal 1, you can go up in the right-hand corner. There is a little barcode there, if you can see that. If you click on that, it opens up your camera and you can scan your foods. So for example, here's my water bottle. I'm going to scan it. Can you see me? And it pulls it up. So it automatically will pull up the food. It's accurate. All you have to do is go in and just decide how many servings you're having of that, right? So this is an amazing function. Even vegetables that come in a package have a scanner. You scan it, put it into your MyFitnessPal. It's a great way to cut time by having to search and do all the things. And then once it's in your logs, it's great because it typically will come up again. Another pro tip, turn off your exercise calories. So if you have the premium feature, I tell this to my clients all the time, turn off the exercise calories because you do not want to eat those calories back. So this was one of the questions I had on my Instagram question box was, do you eat those calories back? That's going to keep you in maintenance mode. So if you are trying to lose body fat, you don't want to eat back the calories. You need to go into your MyFitnessPal, into the settings, and turn off your exercise tracking. So that way you are not eating back and running like a hamster in a wheel without getting any progress because you're just eating back all the food. Save your frequent meals and recipes. It's such a time saver, especially if you're a creature of habit. I certainly am. I basically eat the same breakfast every single day. And so I just have small little variations of that. And it's nice because I just swipe and it adds it all in there. Autopilot that shit. basically the same thing. Repeat meals that you enjoy and just keep them in your logs, so that way it's super easy to just put them in there. If you enjoy it, keep eating it. If you hate it, stop eating it and find something that you like that fits your macros, and then repeat that. Cook once, eat twice. So AKA food prep. I don't really food prep anymore. I cook once, and I'll usually make enough to last me for 2 or 3 days, which is like leftovers. So I'll have it for lunch and then maybe dinner, and I'll maybe switch it up a little bit, but just get into the habit of, when you buy proteins, buy enough for 2 meals. Just make sure that you season it and cook it up the way that you like it, so you'll want to eat it for subsequent meals, or be able to switch it out for different things, like a protein bowl with some veggies, or then, putting it over a salad. Lots of different options. Okay, this is a great tip. I'll give Coach Glitter credit for this one. And this is something that I started doing, is reverse engineer your day based on your sanity foods or meals out / events, because I get this all the time. I'm going to dinner at my mother-in-law's and we're having spaghetti. Like, what do we do? Doing this or whatever. Or I have cravings every night after dinner. Great, girl, have your cravings. Figure out what you want to have for that craving. Put it in your MyFitnessPal. And that way it's already in there, and the rest of the day you eat accordingly. So if that means you have a very carby thing that you want to have post dinner, you're probably just going to be eating a lot of protein and veggies earlier on in the day. And I do that typically like on Fridays, because I know my boyfriend likes to have a cheat meal on Friday nights. And so I want to have some sort of something with him on that. And so I will typically have more protein and veggies earlier in the day. And then, we had burgers. And so we had burgers and fries. And then I was able to actually drop a pound this weekend, having a cheat meal on Friday and going over my calories. But I was able to figure it in. I don't consider it a cheat meal because it's just the way I eat, and it met my macros. So I love that part of ditch deprivation. Okay, so we're moving on. I couldn't put all of the Instagram cues in here because I have so much, and I want to be respectful of your guys' time, but I felt that these were the top ones that were really relative to what I get asked often. So this one was, what do you do when you're constantly following your macros, but you have plateaued? So few things to consider, and this is not an end-all be-all in terms of investigating this, if you will. So what does plateau mean? Has it been a week? Has it been a year? I would say before you use the word plateau, make sure that you've logged for 4 weeks consistently before you change anything. So if you've done it for a week and you're like, nothing's changing, and ping pong on the scale, that's not enough time. Give it 4 weeks before you change anything. Use progress photos, so you are not just hinging your progress on the scale. And I have great photos coming up so you can see primary example of 10 pounds one of my clients lost, which 10 pounds, it's a lot. I'm not discrediting her work, but it's not a ton, right? But had she just been going on the scale, she would have gave up a long time ago, and her results are extraordinary. So use progress photos, super important. You may need a diet break. If you have been on the same macros or eating super low cal for a while, which another one of my clients is currently doing, and I'm going to show you her photos as well, but you may need a diet break, right? You may need to just not be dieting. I don't like to diet my clients for longer than 12 weeks without reverse dieting them for a little bit. And then if we want to go back into fat loss, we'll do it again. It doesn't mean they get fat and gain a bunch of weight. It means we slowly increase their calories, their metabolism catches back up, and then we can go back into fat loss, and then their metabolism is ready to handle more of a deficit after that, because you can't just keep cutting calories. You're just going to end up with nothing, and your body is much smarter than that. Trim back 150 calories a day, not every day, but for a week, for your 150 calories for the day. So meaning, if you have your set amount of calories for the, your daily allotment, take 150 off of that, and then follow that for another 4 weeks. and then see what happens. And then you just have to decide if there's still no change. Am I tracking? Is my tracking on point? And if it is, then you may need to really think about just altogether taking a break, looking at some other factors as well, like sleep, hormones, and is there other things going on? There's like I do a lot of diet detective work with clients when they're like really stuck at some spots. So these are some good parameters to start with, and then kind of reverse engineering the process. Okay, yummy ways to get carb macros in while avoiding gluten. So these are just, this is not an exclusive list, but these are ways that I like to get in carbs besides just like, rice or sweet potatoes. While those are on here, they're not the only thing. I love me some corn tortillas, rice cakes, rice checks, cereals with almond milk, quinoa or edamame pastas, Sour Patch Kids are gluten-free, gluten-free potato chips, mashed potatoes. You can make fried rice and make it healthy. It doesn't have to be just plain, boring, steamed white rice. And then there's also things like gluten-free breads, bagels, etc. And then the next one I want to show you, which is this little infographic. Do carbs make you fat? And I went on like a long tangent last week about keto. No, they do not make you fat. They make you fat in copious amounts, but when you're eating them in a controlled manner and you're training and you're utilizing the carbs for energy, you're not going to get fat eating carbs. So I really have to retrain a lot of my clients when they first start with me, because they freak out when I give them carbs. And then they realize, oh, well, I probably wasn't tracking accurately before, and I was probably eating way more carbs than I'm actually eating now, but these are just, it's just a different parameters, right? Like your protein has changed and your fat has also changed as well. So that's just a fun little infographic from Sciat Fitness, which I love his stuff. Okay, all about protein. We're going to go on a tangent here for a moment. I had somebody who is on this call who asked this question in my Instagrams. How important is getting protein? I'm obsessed with this topic, so let's dive in. Okay, it is the foundation. I'm trying to minimize the screen here, so let me try that out. Okay, foundation for keeping and building muscle. How do we build muscle? We build muscle by weight training. Weight training tears down the muscle. In order for that muscle to be sculpted and toned and take a shape, the next thing needs to happen. You have to consume protein because it has the amino acids that are then going to repair those little tears. So who has worked out with me and ever felt that like nasty burn feeling? And I'm like, chase the burn, like chase that burn in your muscles, because that's where like shit's breaking down. And then when it comes to repairing that, that's how muscle is built, is it's creating little tears. And that's why oftentimes we're sore with an increase of lactic acid and whatnot. Protein is going to help with a lot of things, even including soreness. So if you find that you're always sore, your amino acids probably aren't, in balance either, meaning you might not be getting enough protein. But this is how our muscles are built. Oftentimes I work with clients. In fact, I'm going to show you one of my clients coming up, and she was not eating enough protein at all. And, I was like, you got to get protein, Anna, you got to get protein. And, it was the whole, like, more cardio, more sweat. And I say to my clients, do you want to look like a deflated balloon? Probably not. And I know that's probably harsh to say, but the more cardio you're doing because you're trying to burn fat and you're avoiding like resistance training, which is great for our bodies, then as you lose body fat, you're just going to be a smaller version of your current shape. If you want to change the shape of your body, you have to have the protein and the resistance training working together to make that happen. Now, it's a slower process than like, oh, yay, I'm sweating and like things are working, but it's worth it in the long run. And I've got some good pictures coming up to show you. And I said this last week too, even if you eat enough protein, you could eat all the protein in the world. Your whole diet could be protein. But if you are not resistance training and working those muscles appropriately with the right program and resistance and challenging yourself, you're not going to change the shape of your body just kicking back on the couch, eating, pounding back, 8 ounces of protein per meal. Okay, first client up, Anna Mendez. She came to me as a vegetarian And when we started her food logs, this girl struggled getting in 70 grams of protein a day. And I kept pounding it into her brain. Anna, you want to compete? You want to compete? You cannot. I know you're a vegetarian, but we got to get that protein up. So now she's eating over 130 grams a day. And this was a slow progression. Some of her logs are even showing higher now, which is great. But when she first started with me in January, it was 70, and it was like a struggle. Or February. So she started in February. She's lost 10 pounds. Okay. Her calories have been between 16 and 1800 a day with cheat meals. With cheat meals over 2200 calories. Now, I don't just give my clients cheat meals and say like, have fun, because that's like a free pass to the shit show. So I tell them like 2200 calories, eat whatever you want. I don't care. It doesn't have to be clean. You're just going to probably feel like garbage for a couple days. But, if you need some of that mental relief of like, I don't want to have the, 90-10 rule of 90% clean and 10%, like fun foods, 2200 calories, do your thing, make it fit. Now she's eating close to 200 grams of carbs. That took some time. We weren't doing that initially. She was a cardio queen when we first met. And I said, knock that shit off. So this is what she looks like now. I know we're trying to get her ready for a show at the end of the year, hopefully. But she's well on track. She looks phenomenal. That's 10 pounds, but you can see just looking at this front picture here of her legs, obviously her core midsection. And then the side picture is actually what's most impressive, is just like all the body fat that she lost, in her low back and her obliques and her core. And her butt looks awesome, but I couldn't get all three of those slides on here. So when you lift weights, this is the other point I wanted to make, is when you lift weights, you can get away with eating more food, because in order to keep muscle on your body, you need more calories. It's very calorie expensive. So you can eat more food because that's how muscle is maintained. You can't be starving yourself and expect muscle to stay on your body. Okay, next case study is my client Janet, who is 50. I think she's 50 this year, but she competed last year on my team. You may have seen this photo on my Instagram. She was obsessed with sweat style workouts. So she came to me at Venus. She was doing like a lot of boot campy things, and it was just like, oh, it's a good sweat, and I'm like, okay. So she did some group classes for a while, and I said, Janet, I'm gonna pull you into the dark side. Let's do some personal training. I see some potential, like you've lost some body fat, but let's reshape your body. We literally doubled her protein intake. I trained her 3 times a week for an hour. She did not train on her own, at home, at the gym, nothing. We kicked up her cardio at the tail end of her prep, but only as an added tool to peel off a little last layers of body fat. But reshaping her body was from protein, managing her macros, and resistance training. Again, if you could see, this is a massive change in her rump. She was doing glutes, glutes and legs usually twice a week with me, and then upper body stuff. But she looks phenomenal. She literally reverse aged, and it was really, really fun project working with her on changing the shape of her body. So again, when you lift weights, you can eat more food. Okay, next one. Some of you may know this person. She is on the call today, Miss Coach Glitter. Now, Miss Glitter has lost over 150 pounds total, some of which was before she came into our sphere. And she started her transformation a year ago, okay? So granted, lots of things, right? I'm sure she can attest to, like, she's had her ups, she's had her downs, but she started last May. And last May, she was 178 pounds. This middle photo, she was 153, and this was 2 weeks ago, if I'm correct. Maybe, 2 weeks ago on the right in the purple shorts. Now at 142 pounds. She trains 3 to 5 times a week with weights. She is actually eating more now than she was in January in this middle photo. So I have her calories because I manage her macros. And looking at her food in January versus now, she's actually eating more, and she continues to drop weight every time. I'm like, woman, you're like the incredible incredible morphing woman. So, so this is a prime example of why you cannot keep digging a hole and be like, oh, I'm going to go to 1100. I'm going to go to 1000 calories. I'm going to go to 900. Your metabolism is way smarter than you think, and it's going to backfire. So you have to reverse diet, and which is she's in the process right now. So this is her backside transformation. I told her to knock off quit training certain body parts. That's what I do when I work with my clients. Which is very quad dominant. I said, listen, stop working those quads. We need to balance out your symmetry. So we switched up her training a little bit, but her booty been looking good, y'all. I don't know what you think, but I think things are definitely happening here. So kudos to Miss Glitter. Very nice. All right. Okay. So now how to do the damn thing. These are your action steps for you to get to work and start to put this into action. All right. Option A. You're going to go calculate your macros on the Precision Nutrition or the IIFYM calculator. Get your numbers. That's step one. Step two, or maybe you do step two first. Either one of these, doesn't matter. Get a food scale, super important. Step three, start tracking in MyFitnessPal. That's where you're going to start putting in your foods and figuring out how many calories you're eating per day. Build in your sanity foods. If you're not building in your sanity foods, you will fail, okay? It's ludicrous to think that you're just gonna deprive yourself and eat clean 100% of the time unless you are a robot or you have extreme willpower. Please hit me up because I wanna meet you. Okay, track daily weight for 4 weeks before you make any changes. You are going to want to not wait 4 weeks and you're gonna wanna keep cutting things. Give yourself 4 weeks before you make any changes. All right, recalculate on the calculator to adjust after 4 weeks. If you've lost a few pounds, I say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you've lost weight, stay at those numbers until you don't lose weight anymore. There's no sense in continuing to chop numbers down if it's working. So don't get greedy and want more fat loss and think I'm going to just cut to 1,000 and get there faster, because deflated balloon effect. Remember, we don't want that. So slow and steady, the tortoise versus the hare, it's the way to go. All right. Just keep repeating this until you achieve the desired result that it is. So whether it's a size pants that you want to feel comfortable in, you know, whether it's an event you're going to, whatever it is. So just keep repeating that until you get to the desired result. Give yourself a diet break every 12 weeks. So this is what I was saying earlier. You can't just keep digging a hole and be in the negative, because you'll end up with no calories. You'll give up, you'll quit, and you'll just binge. So give yourself a diet break every 12 weeks, slowly increase your calories back up, kind of the same way in which you cut them. Maybe you add 150 calories a week, play around with it, see what works. Or again, shameless plug, you opt to hire someone who does this and can figure it out for you. And you'll have to answer to me because you can't disappear. I will come looking for you. Things a coach can do. And if you don't even if it's not me, if I'm not your cup of tea, because I'm not everyone's cup of tea. If you find a coach, things that a coach should be doing for you is providing more accuracy than an app. And the way that that's done is because we know more specifics about you. Hopefully they have a thorough intake process that gets to know much more about you than an online calculator. We also are a source of accountability and support, right? When you know you have to check in with your coach every 2 weeks, it definitely makes you very aware of the choices you're gonna make, or maybe slippery slopes that you might go down. And you might be like, yeah, I gotta be in my two-piece to send photos to coach. Gonna skip that extra cupcake. I'm gonna stick to one, put it in my macros, and I'm gonna keep going. I definitely will call you out on your BS in a very loving way, right? I'll be like, girl, stop eating all that dairy. That's why you aren't going to the bathroom, or like whatever, right? So I will call you out on things. I also take, the little things that you may not think are big, and I celebrate them, because small victories are very, very important, especially when you're making new changes in your lifestyle, your nutrition, because over time, those things add up and they do make a difference in your results. Again, just going back to considering your diet, your history, your hormones, behaviors, please, please, please do not just hire a coach that slaps you a meal plan and sends you on your way and says, eat these 4 foods for the next 4 weeks, and I'll see you in your check-ins. Unless you want to just be eating those foods and you feel like you can stick to that, and you're going to be able to manage that when you have like your daughter's birthday party, or your Aunt Susan's retirement or whatever, and you want to maybe have something else there. I know that it makes me crazy when I hear clients say, I couldn't go to this party because I was on a diet and it wasn't in my meal plan. I knew I was going to be tempted. Never again when you count macros. Like, I had my dad's birthday party. We had pizza plus pizza. I fitted in my macros and it was great. I didn't feel like I was trying diet cheating, and I didn't feel guilty. It's just sanity the other way. Again, I course correct clients when they get off track, because you will. You're human. It's the human condition. You will fall off. You'll have a couple glasses of wine more than you intended to. And the great part is we just come back to your next meal, your next day, whatever it is. We don't wait a week and wait to start on Monday. Just starts with the next meal. Like, waiting till Monday is old school. Okay, so now you have the how-to. Now it's time to do. All right, so now you have all of the pieces to the puzzle. It's time to crush it and start to get to work. And with that being said, I plan on doing a part 3 next week, but I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of some other topics and some tips and tricks and strategies, more success stories of other clients that I have that are doing this. So that way I keep implementing the strategies or the success stories. So that way you can see, like, these girls are not eating 1,000 calories. Like, you can lose body fat and change the shape of your body eating more than 1,000 calorie diets, right? So I'll talk about dining out, dieting pitfalls, when you fall off, how to get back on, more Q&As, common mistakes, etc., macro hacks, because doing this for a while, I have lots of them. Foods for fullness factor. So if you're like, I'm always hungry, I feel like a ravaged beast, like I just want to eat the whole pantry, some great foods for that. We'll talk about weekend eating, because that's a huge one. And then the time for that next week is going to be on Sunday the 31st at 10:30. So we're a little bit earlier next week. And I've actually taken on a handful of clients from last week's seminar, but if you are still interested, you want to get on board with doing all the things and you want me to be your guide, that's what I do. My information is there. You can certainly screenshot this, but Ditch Deprivation is a 12-week program, and it allows us to work together. I'm the only coach that does it at this current moment, and I will work with you every 2 weeks, and progress photos and macros and supplements and all the things. You're more than welcome to shoot me an email if you have questions. I get on the phone with every single person who's interested, because I also want to make sure that you're a good fit for the program. It's not for everybody. Okay, open Q&A. And then also want to know how last week's homework went for those that tried tracking. So feel free, in the chat box there, pop it in. Let me know how your homework did, if you did it, how it went. Did you get frustrated? Did you quit after a day? Did you do the whole week? Where did you struggle? And then this was just my little, like, coaches tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So a lot of times the holds up and hang up is like, oh, like, I don't want to track. It's annoying. It's boring. It's tedious. It's overwhelming, and it's restrictive. And again, there's a lot of necessary evils to life that we have to do to get results. If you want to be to work on time, you have to set an alarm. If you want to, brush your teeth, you have to have your toothpaste and your toothbrush, and you have to do the whole process, right? So the best, like I said here, it's the best and most effective and efficient way to guarantee that you wake up on time, right? Is having an alarm. So if you want results, you got to put in the work. So just like anything, counting macros is a learning curve in the beginning. So don't let it frustrate you and overwhelm you and then go down a wormhole of like, it doesn't work for me. You have to be patient with it and get used to tracking. And it's going to let you know a lot about yourself. Trust me, when you start tracking, you're gonna be like, oh, around this time of the day, I always want this snack, or I'm always sticking my hand in the candy jar or whatever. So it's actually a practice in mindfulness as much as it isn't, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So if you have any questions, let me pop back to the last slide here. If you have any questions, feel free, pop them in the box. I know we're like a little under time, so we're gonna go until all the questions are answered, and then I'll let you guys get on with your day. Let's see, where are we at? We've got, I'm gonna go up here. Let's see. Counting macros, I really loved it. It works for me. Giving into cravings sidelines me. Yes. So with cravings, I will say, if you feel like cravings sideline you, back to that tip that we talked about where it's like, knowing yourself. And if you know it's one of those days, I don't know about you, but I know those days. I'm like, it's going to be one of those days. It's going to be a craving day, or it's the weekend or whatever. I will just figure out what it is I have a craving for, and I will put that in my macros, and I will reverse engineer the rest of my day around that. I get a private message that says, is there a healthy balance in which I can continue running and build muscle through weightlifting? Running is a lifestyle for me. I run about 10 miles a week and weightlift 3 to 4 times a week. Any suggestions? Running is okay, but you have to think about their two opposing goals. So running is very cardiovascular in nature. It's very aerobic. Lifting weights is very anaerobic, and you're trying to build muscle there. So you're going to come up against a hurdle. It's going to take you longer, definitely. However, it's not impossible. And why I say that is because if you were on the call last week, and you saw the pictures of Lorena, she was my runner, right? So she runs a lot. She's a running coach. And so for her, she was like, I got to keep this in, and I need to know how I can do it. So we tailored her macros to support those two goals, and it's completely possible. So I would say your protein definitely has to be high, higher, and also your carbohydrates. So that way you can support both of those goals, and definitely be following a program with weightlifting that is challenging you. So you're not doing a ton of reps. That is also going to double as kind of like a cardiovascular type workout. So staying in the 8 to 12 rep range, lifting heavy, and challenging yourself appropriately for sure. But you can do both. 10 miles a week is not a ton. If you were saying I'm running 26 miles a week, like you're basically doing, a full marathon a week, that would be, I would definitely say you're going to struggle big time, and that's going to be almost impossible. Yes, sometimes the scanner doesn't match the package. This is very true. So when you scan in MyFitnessPal, just be aware of that sometimes you got to double check the numbers because sometimes it is a little off. So just double check it. It looks like MyFitnessPal is $79.99 for the year. And if you want to get it at a discount, Cindy says there's a coupon code for $49 on Coupon Bird. So check that out. Let's see, I got a private message says on the MyFitnessPal app, the premium offers the macro calculator. Do you recommend us using that or the other links you mentioned and get the numbers and then plug it into my fitness app? Yes, definitely do not use the MyFitnessPal macro calculator. They try to do too many things on that end, meaning like they have so many offerings and so many things that they're doing aside from macro calculating, or not macro calculating, but food logging. So I wouldn't use the MyFitnessPal recommendations. If you want to, just for the heck of it, and then go to the other apps and see where they compare. But I've done that and they are off. So I would definitely use the other links I suggested. Let's see, Coupon Bird, yes. Melicity says, Melicity's a client of mine who does macros, says I ate biscuits and gravy this week and I still lost 2.5 pounds. Wonderful. Okay, how many calories do your competition team girls eat daily during the last 2 weeks before the competition? Depends on multiple factors. Some of them are grinding it out till the very end, meaning, like they maybe had a little fun, they fell off the wagon a little bit, and so we're trying to squeeze out the last little bits of body fat. But I will say that none of my competitors have ever gone below 1,000 calories in prep. ever. Did I say ever? So it just depends. Again, I have different clients in different stages of prep currently, but at the last 2 weeks of a show, it's based on a lot of factors. Are they in bikini? Are they in figure? Like, what are we trying to do? What's the end goal? But it's never, ever less than 1,000. How does this fit in with intermittent fasting? So this actually works really well with intermittent fasting. So for those of you that are interested in an IF is what they call it, the acronym. Intermittent fasting basically just tells you when to eat, right? Like the time frames, whether it's 8, 10, whatever, however many hours. And then your macros are going to tell you what are you eating within that time frame. Common pitfalls between the two is you're trying to cram in too much food in a short window and it messes up your digestion. It's kind of hard on the digestive system. So I would say it's possible, but it gets harder when your fasting window is smaller. So if you're trying to eat 15 to 1,800 calories of clean food in 4 hours, that is really hard and you are going to be very, very full. So I always say start with a bigger fasting window and then spread your macros over those. But if you are always hungry, it's a great way to work those two together. And maybe I'll do a workshop on that down the road. Okay, how often should we take pictures? I always tell clients every 2 weeks is great. Every week is probably not necessary unless you're competing and you're like in shred mode the last, 12 to 16 weeks of a competition. But every 2 weeks is a good general rule of thumb. And I always tell my clients when taking progress photos, which I'm actually going to do a video on measurements and progress photos in my private group, but hands at your sides, in good lighting, 2-piece suit, super important. I know a lot of you are like, oh, I don't want to do that, but you can't change what you can't see, or you can't see that you've changed things if it's covered in yoga pants, right? Or like long shorts. So just, like when clients work with me, I'm like, these pictures are for my eyes only. I only share them when I get your permission. So, but for yourself, every 2 weeks. And then Sherry was asking, can you still get in all the macros with intermittent fasting? You can, but again, just back to that, depends on the window of time and really probably eating 3 bigger meals instead of grazing all day is going to be easier. Macros are life. Yes, tracked for 2 days. Any tips staying on track with tracking? Honestly, there's really like no magic secret to staying on track with tracking other than the consistency of it. You just got to get into a habit of like, breakfast is out. I literally will make my breakfast, and as it's sitting in front of me, I pull out my phone. It's just a new habit, right? Like you start getting into new habits, just like we start even bad habits, right? So finding a trigger for you. So for me, that trigger is my food is in front of me. Before I take a bite, I like to log it in and then set my phone aside, because I used to eat and track at the same time and I can't enjoy my food that way. So like, I'm like, oh, my protein pancake's gone. I spent all this time like logging it. So, so honestly, it's just getting used to that consistency of tracking it and thinking plate down, macros in, plate down, macros in, right? Before you start eating, and then you forget what you added to all the things. Let's see, if I go to a friend's or a restaurant, how do we specifically enter every single ingredient? So I think this is where a lot of people give up and get frustrated, is they're like, I'm eating this, lasagna and I don't know like what's in it, right? You guesstimate. So what I do is I'll go into my Fitness Pal, and if I'm eating, we're just going to say lasagna because it's a complex dish with layers and cheeses and sauces and all the things. I will look up in my Fitness Pal Stouffer's lasagna or lasagna, and it'll pull up a bunch of lasagnas, and I'm going to find something that makes sense. So if I had a square about this big, I'll say, okay, we're going to guess it weighs 7 ounces. I would look for lasagna around a 6 or 7 ounce range, and there's going to be a few in there. And I always pick the one that's in the middle of calories. Don't fool yourself and pick the lowest calorie one, and don't, jack yourself and pick the highest. So pick the middle and just go with it, right? It's better to have tracked something than not track nothing and just be like, I didn't know, so I didn't put it in there. And then you end up eating more of it because you're like, oh well, diet starts tomorrow. So pick something in the middle and just put it in there. I do that very often when I eat foods that I'm not sure I'm going here or there or whatever. I know as far as pasta goes, Vic, that is one that you can definitely look up in MyFitnessPal as cooked, and then weigh your pasta cooked and just portion it out. You're not going to cook your portion separately. Yeah, that one, you're probably going to have to look at the entire box as far as the portion size goes, and then guesstimate. Again, it's kind of the same thing with like the lasagna example. Just find something that's going to be in the middle, eyeballing it as best as you can, and know that it's not going to be 100% accurate if you're not going to want to portion it out separately. Okay, started the macros, had a FitnessPal, got better tracking stuff, then just grabbing something to fill the time. Yes, unplanned eats for sure, definitely. Same thing, Nicole, just like on the pasta, you're going to have to just guesstimate as best as you can and then move on from it, and don't let it trip you up from continuing to log. Okay. What if you are full / not hungry, but haven't met your macros for the day? I always tell my clients, don't force feed. So like if you are not hungry, don't force feed. But it is important that we're getting that protein in as a priority. And, you know, like if you can't meet all the other macros, like it's going to be wonky, of course, for some time, for some days or whatever, but trying to slowly increase your calories every day. So look at your calories. If you're like, oh, I was 500 short, or you're noticing you're like perpetually 400 or 500 short, where can you add in a little bit maybe the next day and just go 50 calories more today, right? Like see if you could just sprinkle in 50 more here, 50 more there. Because I know specifically from working with you, Miss Cheryl, is that we need you to eat more because your body is resisting as far as making progress, because you're not eating enough and your hormones are needing to catch up to that, your hunger hormones. So slowly, baby, incrementally, instead of just bombing yourself and feeling miserable. So don't force feed. Yes, Crystal, it is a thing to feel hungrier on leg day. Reason being is your glutes, legs, those are the biggest muscles on your body. So they're using a lot more energy. They're using a lot more glycogen. And so it's natural to kick up your hunger hormones when you do work lower body. So totally normal. Thank you. Thank you. Nicole asks, how much is the 12-week ditch deprivation program? Until June 1st, it's $3.99 for 12 weeks. As of June 1st, it's going to go up to $4.99 for 12 weeks. And that includes checking in with me every 2 weeks. Obviously, I give you your macros. I also don't know if I mentioned this, but I will give you recommendations for cardio to add in if that's something that we need to do together to work on. As far as like to get things moving, if you're not working out, I'll give you some cardio recommendations. I also tell you what supplements you'll need to take, and that varies depending on your age, your goals, etc. And yeah. And there is a split payment option available as well. Amanda, how many macros does the kitty eat? Okay. How do you weigh oats in a jar cooked? Just put it on the scale. I weigh my oats dry and then I cook them. And then I also look for them in my FitnessPal as dry oats. So that way I'm logging them in that form, and then I cook them and they're fine, because oats aren't like protein where they're going to lose, lose moisture and fat and things like that. And as far as their content goes, so you're fine weighing oats dry for sure. Right. I think that was it as far as the questions go. Unless anybody has any last minute ones, feel free to plug them in there. But hopefully that was helpful for you. You picked up some tips, some tricks, some things that you want to try and experiment. I highly encourage, you give it a whirl. Go check out what your macros would be on one of those online calculators. So that way you can start, start, playing around with numbers and seeing where you land and how you feel and all the things. And hit me up if you want to get on board with ditch deprivation. But last minute question I had was the ditch deprivation program typically in person and modified due to COVID? No, ditch deprivation's always been a virtual online coaching program. I do have a private Facebook group for ditch deprivation that I'm going to resuscitate now that I have so many people in ditch deprivation. So there is a private group for that. And then I also have a current group that I put all my clients in as well, where I do lots of, like, I'll pop in and do little things on diet tips, etc. I post my own foods, all the things. It's a great place to get lots of ideas and etc. But no, ditch deprivation has always been virtual, and we communicate via email. You also have my cell phone number to text me. We get on the phone. Also, there's option to get on the phone with me 3 times throughout the program. So if, like, I've had clients that are like, I'm struggling, I need help, I need you to, like, kick me into gear or whatever, then we arrange a time to get on the on the phone, and we can start chatting about, like, where you're stuck. And, a lot of time, like, we get in our own way, right? Like, we're just getting in our own way. Like, we know what we need to do. You just need me to be like, you just need to do it. And obviously I pull out more coaching tools besides telling you you just need to do it. But a lot of times that's how it starts. So, all right. Well, ditch deprivation right now has an ongoing start date. So you can start whenever, like, at this point, I have clients always coming in and out of the program. I'm going to launch it in the fall as like a big group launch again, but that's like to be determined as we are moving through, like, opening the studio back up and other big projects. But right now I take it like case by case basis. So that way I make sure I have enough capacity to work with online folks with nutrition, personal training clients, competitors, like all the things, since it's just me right now doing ditch. But yeah, maybe in the near future, we have Coach Glitter and my daughter, who is also a macro freaking wizard, that kid, coming on board for also assistant coaching with that. So that'll be a fun. Okay, I think we covered everything. You guys have been fantastic for hanging out this whole time and listening. I want a rocking chair, Tiffany. It looks so fun. I love it. Well, you guys have been fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and take off and try to go have some breakfast in an actual restaurant. Actually, it's brunch. I'm going to have brunch at my favorite breakfast spot, me and my boo, and it's already in my macros, yo. Because we eat there so much. I eat the same thing. We get there, they literally are like, you want your usual? And I'm like, yeah, if it's my macros. And so I'll take a picture of it. It is nothing fancy. All right. It is Hot Rod Diner. And I probably would have never stopped there 5 years ago. I'd been like, I'm not eating there. But they make me an egg white omelet. They give me a veggie patty. I get, like, all these yummy things, and I have a great time just sitting there and people watching. So it'll be fun. All right, you guys, enjoy your waffle. It fits your macros. Go do it. And let's try this again next week. I'll have more goodies and tips for you. Hopefully that was helpful and you feel like you can do the damn thing. Thank you guys. I like you a great deal. Enjoy your Sunday.